Imagine a world where there are no underestimated founders. What does it look like? What does it feel like? More importantly, how do we get there? Our guest on this episode is on a mission to create a diverse network for founders, investors, and accelerators. Meet Kevin Withane, ethics and compliance lawyer and executive, non-executive director of various private companies, advisor at startups, and the man behind DiversityX. DiversityX's mission is to support underestimated founders by creating opportunities to access funding, better education, and an ecosystem for underestimated founders to thrive. Sounds amazing, isn't it? But what's Kevin's secret, and how and why, in fact, should you get involved? Welcome to the Mary Poppins of Startups live show, a show where we answer live the burning questions that you have on your way to Series A+. Subscribe and tune in every week to find out more information on product development, technology, and leadership. More importantly, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Kevin, welcome to the show. I've read a lot about DiversityX, and I did spend some time doing quite a lot of research, and I'm really excited to finally get to speak to you live. I guess my first question is, what is the origin story, right? How did you wake up one day and go, I'm a lawyer, I really want to go and start helping underestimated founders?
So the origin story is a long one. It wasn't like I just woke up one day, but in some senses I did wake up one day and said, I'm not fully fulfilled doing what I'm doing, and I need to do something that scratches that itch, and to be able to live my purpose. Some wise person said to me, the workplace doesn't have to be the only place where you find and live out your purpose. You can do your job, but also you can do the stuff that the job doesn't give you elsewhere. So that stuck with me for a while, and I started looking, what else do I want to do? I didn't really know. So I sort of went on my own personal journey. It took a number of years, journaling, writing, but peeling back the onion about who I am and what I wanted to do. And I sort of found my purpose as using my skills to help other people make the world a better place. I realized after doing a lot of work and what do I do? And then I started exploring, well, who do I want to work for? I love the stuff that I do in my day job, the ethics, compliance, focusing on people and purpose and trying to drive through productivity through those. But also having good frameworks around policy and procedures and making the ethical decisions, which are sometimes some of the really tough decisions to make. And then the same frameworks that sort of drive through sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So then I started looking at who I want to help, and I realized it was startups. So then it was like, well, how can I help them? Oh, do you know what? Why don't I start a crowdfunding platform? So I started DiversityX, and initially DiversityX was going to be a crowdfunding platform. And so I did quite a lot of research into it, and I was very close to I'm going to do this. But then it dawned on me, there's other crowdfunding platforms there. And yes, my crowdfunding platform was going to be, well, it could be for startups who are underrepresented. And I used that term at the time. And then I started exploring a bit more, and I realized, look, I'm not scalable to help these people. Because I have finite amount of time, but also can be quite expensive, and these guys don't have money. So how can I help them? But also importantly, the scalability thing is really important to me, because I have 3 mixed race children, 2 young boys, and my daughter who's now turned 12 and could enter the workforce in 6 years, and it's not really fair for her. It's not equitable. She's going to have to swim harder and faster just to get to the start line, and than even the 2 boys, and all 3 of them are going to have tough life because I'm their dad and they're mixed race. So I can't have that. It's unacceptable to me. And that's what drove me. Is I've got to do something, and how can I build this in with my purpose and my skills? So I looked at the crowdfunding. It's no, that's not going to work. They can Seeders or some crowd could just put a new tab, out there, just giving it to you on a plate. Do it to support really very specifically underestimated founders. And then coming to that term, I use the term underestimated founders because as I started exploring, well, how can I help founders who are started by mixed race people or women or people of color or LGBT, I realized like there's no underrepresentation because there's plenty of them. Like all of those different categories, plenty if you just look. If you've got a call out for them. But what there is underrepresentation is the equitable allocation of capital. And so I was like, well, how do these companies scale and grow? Oh, VC. So I started exploring VC. And from there, I realized this place is just completely messed up. The reason is because they're just not tapping into these founders and the ability. They're discarded before they even get a chance to pitch. For many of them, before they can even get through the gates, they're discarded. And I've realized like this is where I can make a difference. So I started a community called DiversityX to support, and I made this a life's mission now to support underestimated founders. Just full stop, actually. My job is to create the opportunities to access capital.
I love the how you kind of I love the word that you're using. I think this is one of the things I first noticed when I saw your post coming up on my feed, and it was the words underestimated rather than underrepresented. Actually reminds me of a woman that always she runs a group that focuses more on women, and she always says women don't need fixing, they need more opportunities. So when I saw what you are doing through DiversityX, I kind of recognize that as well. As you said, it's kind of how do we make capital more accessible. But what do you think it needs to be changed in the way that capital is currently being allocated to startup founders in the world?
Plenty, but let's go with the headline, shall we? There needs to be an understanding of how VC works and the incentivization for VC. I mean, it is not a get-rich scheme. It's a long game and it's a long gamble. And you look at the funds, and particularly those that are focusing on, say, female founders. Well, actually, those are not. I think it's just money left on the table. They're not incentivized in any sort of same, and there's no accountability from the LP side. So the investors that invest or give the funds the money called limited partners for in most cases. They tend to be like big organizations, corporates and pension houses, institutional finance, but also high net worth and family offices, and even angels can be part of it as well. But there isn't any incentivization there to effectively go out and turn every stone. And if you look at, I disagree with the Friedman view of capitalism. I don't think it's correct. I think it's just a metric. So, but as venture capitalists, if you take that sort of viewpoint, it's about shareholder primacy. And shareholder primacy is we want to maximize the returns for the LPs. Well, how can you do that if you don't turn over every stone? How many of the VCs say we find like the one shining light in this galaxy? That's the best. How many? All of them do. Really? Because you've just taken a portion of it and gone, that's the one there. You haven't turned over every stone. And I get it. It's bloody hard because there's so many. But isn't that your job? Isn't that your job? So what I think needs to happen is, firstly, there needs to be more incentivization and accountability. And I think this is coming slowly. But then I also think there's, funds are run lean for the most part to maximize what the potential returns are later on down the line. They're gambling. Like, let's be honest. You're looking at every investment is potentially the one that's going to return the fund because all the others are going to fail. So with that in mind, if you Google successful founder, you'll probably find a load of white people Actually, let's be more accurate. You'll probably find a load of straight white men. And the reason is because that's the idea of who a successful founder is. It's not, so you've got these biases. So you've got a filter, like you're seeing deck after deck after deck. It all becomes the same. How do you filter? How do we get? Okay, so then it's like, what's your biases are there, right? It's the things that, okay, this doesn't seem right. This founder, why women get questioned more, like because your test, like, is because they don't fit the mold of what the sex founder. So, I mean, to be fair, if you're getting the women getting questioned, that's better than many others. But it's still, the sort of questions are wrong. It's really deeper questions on risk space, like how many you can get young white boys got an idea back of a fag packet, they've got a relative access. Access is a problem, and so they can get funding because they can go to that accessible person to them and say, pitch an idea on the back of a fag packet and get a ton of money. Like, it isn't the norm, but it can happen. It's less likely to happen for a person of color, a woman, LGBTQ plus disabled founder. Like, I've talked to one disabled founder, great business actually, and he was telling me how basically he went for a pitch competition and they didn't have a accessible lift. Like, he couldn't get up to the pitch. So they said, well,
you can't pitch.
Like, that's unacceptable in society. Founders, just unacceptable.
Plus, they should have obviously they organized the pitch competition. They should have done their research and make sure that the venue was accessible for the guests.
Exactly. So I think, so going back to what could change, I think we need more focus as well on VCs actually having some intentionality. Look, we want to find more diverse founders because we want to turn over the stones. We want to find the best of the best of the best across the entire universe of founders in the segments and the things that we love. It's great. Find them, be intentional about it. It isn't hard. It just takes intention and work. Like DiversityX, it takes intention and work, but there are founders there who love it, who are coming to DiversityX and being part of a community and creating that. Like, you have to be intentional, and that means also it's not you're trying to find it's not just about the financial capital that you have, because in some senses that is almost like we own you type of thing. Like, we have the power. It's about finding the best, wanting to do it for the right reasons, is because you want to find that best founder who's going to solve that problem.
At the end of the day, it's a really long-term partnerships, right? The money is important, but it's also making sure that it's the right person to work with for that long period of time. How you're going to support them? There will be a lot of ups and downs, so you kind of need to be on the same wavelength there as well.
Yeah, completely. And do you know what? Like, I meet so many amazing people in the community, and like, the community's open, so it's if you sort of fit within the terminology we have of underestimated, being a female founder, person of color, LGBTQ plus, neurodiverse, disabled, older, I think I hit everything there, and you're a founder, then we say welcome home. That's it. Now, your business, it could be VC investable, it could be angel investable, it could be completely not. We don't care. You're welcome here. It's your safe space, and the reason is because you can learn from everybody. And I use this example a lot. Like, the restaurant is the best. Bring someone who's got a cafe, a really small cafe. Okay, they're going to start doing some baked goods. I tell you, that person knows about product market fit because they have to reiterate, otherwise they will fail until they get that right product there for their customers in that cafe. That is a really great skill that a founder of a tech business should understand. Like, product market fit, reiterate until it's right. Like, don't have all the things that you don't need, include the stuff that you do need. habits, they can be upscaled. Multiple products, they can also have what's the word? Budgeting skills. Running the restaurant is one of the hardest business in the world. Managing supply chain, managing stock. They're really useful skills that any founder in a tech business or a deeply VC scalable business should understand. That's why I think having a community that's mixed, we learn off each other. And honestly, like, there's such super smart people in there, of which none of them are fit the mold of the typical funded founder being the straight white male. Not that we have anything against those people, like, they're great too. It's just that this is a community for the people that are essentially overlooked.
And the other thing, I think, is something actually I'm going to highlight as well for the Entrepreneurship Week. I think the Global Entrepreneurship Week is sometime mid-November. And one of the things that a lot of people perceive is, when there's a lot of groups and there's a lot of support there for startups. But what if your business is, like you said, it might not be VC investable, or it might not even be at the angel investor side, or never will be, but you still have a great idea that benefit the community. So where do you go for support, or where do you go for help? And one thing I would really love to do during that week is to highlight the different phases of entrepreneurship and what it means, all the way from the people who are serial entrepreneurs working in a charity or a non-profit, all the way to someone who maybe work on the side, where they might not want to be the face of a company, but they provide support for other startups and other businesses out there, and all the way to the startups. And I think that it's great to know that DiversityX is pretty much the home for people who have idea and have a passion and just want to meet like-minded people to take it forward with them.
Yeah, it's absolutely the place for that. It's a safe space as well, right? Because it is tough out there. We had a session a few weeks ago. We do a Friday week in review. And we didn't have any news that week, so we're just talking about stuff that was going on. Honestly, the stories that are shared, I'm going to write about some of them, so I won't share it now. But some of the women were saying their experience of fundraising. It's the stuff, like, sometimes I just can't believe this stuff comes out of people's mouth, but it does. Maybe it's my naivety. Like, I keep going, did they actually say that stuff? It's like, yeah, they did. It's like, oh my word, like, how? It's not like they're just thinking it and you got that. You can tell what they're thinking. It's no, they actually said that stuff, and that it's not on. It's not on. I think that if my daughter was in that, I would go nuts. Honestly, maybe end up in prison. I can't have that happening. So we need to change that. But people need that release. You can't share that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
You just can't. I wish you could, honestly, because I want to call out all of these Epsteins. I honestly do want to call them out. But
I guess in a way you are doing that in your newsletter, and I'll come to that in a bit. First of all, thank you for anyone who joined up. Thanks for those who put the comments, the interesting subjects from Amy, and we also have Williams. Hi, Bill. Great to have you on the show. And of course, we have Kevin here. If you have any questions, do put in the chat. We'd love to answer you live. And if you don't know how to join the community, check out the comment. We put the link to the DiversityX community. You might as well go and check it out after the show, and do join. Don't just delay, because you're going to miss out on amazing things. And as you said, Kevin, the community helps people to talk and share their issues in a way that might not be perceived nicely if they were to put it online, but at least they can talk and get the support from the community. But one thing I love about, when I was researching you over the last few months, one thing that I noticed was the newsletter that you publish once a month that tends to highlight some of those challenges. And one of them that really, I actually laughed when I read that, because I thought that's so true. It was about failing upward as a startup founders, how underestimated founders only have that one opportunity, whereas others, when you fail as a founder, the message is it gives you a better opportunity of succeeding the second time, but yet for other people, it's really hard. So I think was that also inspired from your community, or is it something that you've noticed in general?
I think you notice it in general, but there are people in the community who have failed, but they're trying again. The benefits is sometimes they failed without taking other people's money. I think that so then you can play that down in a different way, and you can talk about the lessons you've learned. But we wrote that after the Adam Newman got backed by a Z, right?
Yeah.
The guy lost billions. Like, I mean, he blew money, like burnt. Literally, you might as well have set fire to it. And yeah, then there's a whole debacle about how he left WeWork and all of that stuff and the toxic environment. But putting all that away, he's got back to gain. And look, I'm not disputing the idea, but what is the chances of that happen? Like, what's her name? Yeah. Elizabeth Holmes. Terrible in terms of some of the stuff that went on. Do you think she's going to get back to gain? I doubt it. I doubt it. But why? Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how many failed Black founders have you seen that have been back to the hilt the second time round? I mean, there's so few in the first place that have been backed. And then
it's not really.
What about the ones who failed? How many of those? And then we don't hear those stories. Why? Because not being created. Not being the first chapter and the first pages aren't being written or having the support. And that's what we need to do, like as an industry, as a group of emerging managers. I think there is changes coming. And I'm not using that publisher analogy now. We are like, in some senses, a publisher. We're saying to them, look, here's a check, go and write the first chapters. We'll reiterate, we'll edit it, we'll help you get that book out. But you need some money. So here's the first check to go and do that. We might need to get some other people in to help with the second check or third check along the line. But here you go. Go and write those chapters for us because we believe in you. We think you've got something special and you've got a story to tell, or you've got a product that's going to solve a real world problem, and you're not just going to impact a few lives, you're going to impact many lives. And isn't that what we're here for?
Exactly. And I guess the first check does go a long way, at least to get the founders to a point where they can start building on their ideas, knocking on a few more doors, clients, other investors for the second, third checks. But it not being able to even get to the first one is definitely a big challenge that we've seen a lot, and especially during the segment that I'm doing as part of the podcast as well. And in fact, we have an interesting question for you, Kevin, from the chat, and it reads, hello, Kevin, your passion for making a change is inspiring. Can you tell us a bit about the challenges faced by underestimated founders and how you work together to overcome them? That's a very nice question.
Yeah, that's a great question. The challenges are network. Not everybody comes from the same backgrounds, right? Now, someone said to me, oh, if they go to Oxford, they're likely, or to Cambridge, they've probably got a network. I was like, not really. You don't, it's not always the same, right? We make an assumption. Oh, well, you went to Oxford, you must be coming from, like, well, hold on. You might be one of the few that got in on a scholarship or partial scholarship, but you've got a great idea. Or you are the first from your family who's gone to university. You've got into Oxford or Cambridge, hard work, and you're hard working, and now you've got a problem, but you don't have the network. The socio-economic backgrounds are important, and it not just for people of color or women, LGBT plus, all those groups. It happens for other young white men or women too. But I'm really focused on a certain group that tends not to get funded. So I think network, the need to have an introduction for so many VCs is frustrating. Now, many say they don't, but then you look at their websites, don't even tell you what the criteria is to apply. And then you don't have an in with them. Some talk about how they're a VC and all of this, then there's no contact details. Well, so you need to have that in. And I think that is a hindrance for many underestimated founders. Then the entire process itself. Like you do 4, 5 rounds and pitches, and then you get a no, and you don't understand why. It takes longer to get the funding in, and I mean everybody's seen that right now. But in the heydays, where's those numbers? Where's these underestimated founders? You know, we were having boon time a little while ago. Party, everybody was going
Yes.
for it. Valuations are going through the roof. VCs were like, yeah, have some more, except it was going to the same. Now everybody can go, yeah, but it increased a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Is 0.5%, is 1%, is 2%. Is that material? If you're a finance person, you know that's not material. That's not material at all. And the only reason it's not they're not making that change is because there isn't the intentionality. It's just sound bites. How many reports do we need to tell us how bad it is? We're going to get another one soon. The Atomico one's going to come out, the State of Tech or whatever it is, the European State of Tech. It's going to tell us how bad it is, how low the investment in underestimated is. What it doesn't tell us is what are we actually going to do. Now you've got the do-gooders going, yeah, we're going to do something, we're improving, and there are good people trying to do that. But where are the checks on that? You said you're going to do something. What have you done, like really materially, to make change?
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me, and that's why DiversityX, we're focused on completely this pond, because we believe it's a blind spot for traditional VC. And you know what? It's no longer just a problem. It's a great opportunity. And I encourage other emerging managers to really tap into that, tap into DiversityX. We've got an amazing group of founders, which, you know, it's not from a pure thesis point of view, it's not going to meet all of our requirements when we eventually have a fund. But that doesn't mean they're bad businesses. It just means they're right for somebody else with that thesis who focuses on that.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing I've seen as well with DiversityX is that there is the DiversityX University that's coming up soon, and there's also, you know, this idea of community is about the mentorship, because I think that especially when you are an underestimated founder, it's really hard to get funding in the first place, but not having a community can also, or even a mentor, can also be quite lonely. I was working with someone who wanted to launch his product in renewable energy, which is very hot at the moment, especially as a startup. Great idea to how to help with the climate crisis. But it took us quite a lot of work, because he's an expert with years and years experience in his field. But when it comes to, you know, structuring the team, leadership, when it comes to, you know, time management, product, how do I get the first lead? There's a lot that people have to deal with. And, you know, I was kind of privileged to, I'm still working with him, to be working with him as he's building a startup. But as you said, not everybody has that support or know where to go to find that support as they go on.
Yeah, it is tough. It's really, really lonely. It's really lonely trying to start a VC firm. It is really, really lonely. The mental health aspect of being a founder is deeply underestimated, and quite frankly, lacking clear support and guidance. And I guess the reason is it's such a fragmented, you know, you're a founder, but there are hubs and there are communities, but they're all focused on getting you from here to here, not what your mental state is. So yeah, the ability to ask, and I always say to anybody, just ask your questions in a group. Someone will respond, someone will reach out to you. And we try and push certain questions. You know, when we had the WhatsApp group, people were talking like, I need help. Like literally, they were having a breakdown. Like, you know, and people got on the phone. Like, I know I did. I know other people did. And then you see them a few months later or even a few weeks and they are flying. And you know, there's nothing warmer, and you feel that sense of pride and happiness. And they hit. It's great when I meet founders from the community and they're like, oh, do you know what? I was with such and such or such and such or such and such from the community. We were chatting about this and that, and they really helped me with this, or I helped them with that. And I'm like, I didn't realize so much was going on in the background that I don't even see. But you know, that's like, I think that's a joy. It's like having a child that's blossoming and you're not seeing it at school, what they're doing. It's like that for me.
I can definitely relate to that. And there's this, I work with this woman, is early this year, and as you said, this, she actually spent a year. She knows exactly what she wants to do. She wanted to be a founder, but not exactly sure what step to take. That's another, when we're talking really early stage and future founder at that point. And she spent a year trying to find out different experiments. She wanted to go in fintech, or maybe it wasn't fintech, but she liked the climate. She brought how to bring all of these passions together. And after a year, she felt like she failed herself because she didn't manage to really launch anything that took off. And luckily, we bumped into I think it was just one of these events that bring a lot of founders together. And I told her, well, why are you seeing that as a failure? What have you learned from that? And how can you go and to the point where you can start again? And it took us a lot of months. First, just looking at the mindset. So we work on the mindset, and then we start looking at connections on what's out there. She then eventually got into the Carbon 13 groups where she met other founders. By that point, she knew exactly what she wanted to do because she had the fear about being a CEO. And I'm like, being a founder is not about being CEO. There's plenty of roles available. Just find someone that wants to be CEO. And she did. And now I do have this pleasure when I go on LinkedIn and there's a post about the company that I've started, there's something going on. And, especially when I have a busy day and you see that pop up, like you're saying, where it's a bit like seeing your child going to school and you're thinking, oh, that's so good. And I do love those moments where you see the community and the work that you do to support people who are passionate, but they've been going through such a very, very hard time. But at the same time, that didn't deter them from moving forward.
Yeah. And it's like we're there, like the way I look at it is we're there through the hard part, but we're also there through the celebrations.
Yeah.
When we had the WhatsApp group, it used to go Fridays was my favorite day because we do this thing called celebrations, wins, losses, and obstacles not overcome. So I'd start off with like a reflection of the week and then just like saying, well, these are my wins, these are my losses, these are things I didn't overcome in the week. Invariably for months on end, it was like I did not exercise or did not run. But everybody started, like loads of people started putting on different things, and it was like, in some senses, for me at least, like deeply powerful. And I know a lot of people got out of it got into it because they started posting, and you could see all their stuff and they're sharing. And then then someone would say, look, I'd love to be nominated for this award, have the link, and all of a sudden all you just see is done. Like these people are nominating everybody. It was brilliant. And we've moved from WhatsApp, which is a very organic platform, to something called Heartbeat, which is a much nicer, organized version, user-friendly version, and Slack. So we're still getting used to it. We're like, I guess, almost 2 months into it now. We've had a huge growth. We're almost at 300 founders on the platform, but it's much more organized. So we don't have that like immediacy of the messages in which we got with WhatsApp, which pings you a message. We actually had people leaving the community because it was day and night. Like, I kid you not, I was holding my baby middle of the night, feeding him or whatever, and like my phone is going off. And you got people like they're sharing ideas and they're like, oh, we're neurodiverse. Like, this is when our brains are firing in the middle of the night. Brilliant.
Now I can imagine that being a nice playground for me because I love ideas and I love to help. So imagine, but like you said, everybody, you'll be up at night because you really want to help and trying to figure out what's going on, what is needed here and there. Now that's incredible. And I believe your target for the community is about 1,000 subscribers by next June 2023. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if you want to join today and make that come true, so we can say to everybody that we've smashed that record, that would be amazing.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna make it my mission to remind people that actually we need to get to that record, because that would be really powerful.
We do. I want it to be a global group. Like, honestly, like you read out our mission, like a world without underestimated founders, like based on their color, their race, their gender, sexuality, all of those categories. But until that day, we have a very simple mission: to be the world's biggest active community and active is a key thing because we are there to support and learn from and share and collaborate and do everything for each other of underestimated founders. So yeah, please join.
Yeah. So I've got a interesting question, something that's been going in the back of my mind. Because of course, as you're launching DiversityX, especially the funds part of it, right? So the capital and helping from that aspect of things. When we look at how your own journey and your growth, it could be similar to a startup starting a new business. How do you make sure that in a few years' time, when as you're becoming more successful, you get a lot more LPs coming around, you are still straight and focused on your mission? Because as you've mentioned earlier in our talk, there is this aspect that people don't see when they look at the venture capitalist world, especially startups look at investors, but of course investors, get the money from the LCs and all of that. So how do you make sure that you will continue to be accountable to your mission to underestimated founders?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer I guess I would give for that is DiversityX wasn't about starting a fund. It was about supporting underestimated founders. Like nowhere in it, in our mission, in our ethos, do we talk about, like we're in it to make money as a VC, because we're not. We're in it to support underestimated founders. Now, from the VC side, yes, there will be part of requiring us to make money because, quite frankly, we're taking money off LPs. We're fiduciaries. They're helping me and Marcus and the team live our dreams of supporting underestimated founders, and we're helping those underestimated founders we eventually invest in to live their dreams, to solve the problems that they've found, and to make the world a bit better. So we have to give them the returns that we promised them. But we are there for all those founders, including the ones we will obviously support financially. And we will help them in whatever way we can. And I have this saying, one, knowledge is open source. And the other one is that in the community, there are no competitors, there are only collaborators. And I treat that the same way for we as a VC firm would be. It's like our mission is to serve these underestimated founders. So we don't care. If everybody wants to co-invest, let's do it. Let's do it. If it's the right thesis for you, let's show up together. I'm happy. Like we don't care. Like I don't have that ego about it. We just want, the ultimate goal is let's help these founders solve that problem and show that they can be successful. And then we're going to have new data points, by the way. We're going to have new data points that show like people of color founders are deeply successful en masse. Women founders are really successful. LGBT, all like disabled, neurodiverse, they can be really successful. If you find the right founder with the right problem, the right solution that's scalable, they're the ones we should be backing. So we have no competitors. Yeah. And people might say, oh, that's naive, Kevin. I really don't care. I honestly believe the opportunity is so big, there isn't enough LPs in this world to give DiversityX enough money to solve that, solve the issues. So therefore, the pond is big.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if at the moment investment only goes to 1%, imagine how much more will go. We still have 99% out there that needs investment. So there we go. There's plenty of great minds and great ideas that are currently being overlooked anyway.
Yeah. There's so many great founders. Like in a community, I look and sometimes it baffles me. Now there are founders in there that I think brilliant founder. I don't think this is the problem for you, or don't think this is the business for you. But you might need to do it because their passion is there. They have to probably try it and it might fail. And I could be wrong. I could be deeply wrong. I'd love to be. But sometimes you see it's like when they've got this out their system, they're going to then have taken a load of learnings from that journey, they're going to be able to apply it to the next problem that they see, that they want to solve, that resonates with them. And they're going to fly. Because they've taken all the learnings and they've still got that burning desire, that passion, all of those things. But we've got to make it that opportunity available. Even that, picking yourself up, dusting yourself down, go again. And that tends to be like in the tech world, fail fast, but go again. Like that's so if that's the way it works, then these guys, you take that too. Fail fast. Actually, I don't agree with that theory personally. Like, I think there has to be some a bit more thought, but the opportunity to take your learnings from failing and then going again, I fully embrace that. If you're a founder, you're a problem solver. You're basically the inventor,
And there's no templates out there, right?
That's what you are. You're like, the guy, like what a comment, Dick Van Dyke in Chitty Bang Bang is the inventor, right? Crackpot inventor, but he keeps going, doesn't stop, doesn't work. Try another thing, try another thing, try another thing, try another thing, till he gets the flying car.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of your own invention, what are some of the challenges that you are dealing with?
So I do have a full-time main gig job, which keeps me very occupied, and it's a challenging role. I'm trying to do some good stuff there. So that obviously not enough time for DiversityX, but I'm so blessed that I've got Ilaria and I've got Marcus, and we have one more person. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say her name yet, so I won't. Come on board, who are supporting and actually helping drive through. We're also like trying to build, a VC firm. It's not a fund, it's a firm, because it's generational. So the challenge is, like startups, we are going to have to raise, and we're raises on our thesis. And I'm very open about our thesis. We're supporting underestimated founders. We're solving real world problems and making a positive impact in the world. So there's a few elements there. And we have interest areas as well: climate, health, ed tech, and a future of work. And the reasons is that all four contribute and will contribute to a sustainable world, but also a more inclusive. And first questions I ask: 6 years time, 13 years time, 17 years time. If that startup, if I can see and I feel that startup's going to be around, that's a positive sign for me, because that means my children have a choice, because my children could enter the workforce in those dates. And so I want them to have choices of going at sustainable businesses, that are going to last, but also ones that are inclusive and built around those things, but also having an impact, doing good. So the challenge for us is right now is going to be raising capital to support underestimated founders. Anybody want to chat about that, please feel free to do so.
Yes, no, definitely. And the 4 sectors you've mentioned were climate, femtech, edtech, and
health. Although we love femtech, but
health tech in general.
Health in general, but the more we see around femtech, the more excited we're going to get. Edtech and the future of work.
Yeah, brilliant. And we've got some questions coming out in the chats. We have, just catching up with the comments. A great question from Will. Great insight on taking learning from failures, especially as a founder. You got to try different avenues to ensure you've got a viable product. And the question is, what's one advice you would give to new founders from your journey as a founder and VC?
As a founder?
From your own personal journey as a founder and as a VC.
So my own personal journey is don't give up. You have to inspire people. And the only way to truly do that is immerse yourself in what you're trying to solve. I come alive talking about DiversityX, which is why I love the opportunities that I'm being given to talk about DiversityX. And the reason is because I'm deeply passionate about it. It is a life mission. I'm not here going, I'm trying to make a quick buck. I'm not. I'm here because I genuinely want to make the world better. Because I've got those three mixed race children. Always forget, like, don't forget that. That's at the back of my mind. Like, everything I'm doing is to make that world better for them, because I can't have it the way it is. The problem, so as a founder, the problem that you're solving needs to eat at you every day. And if it's not, then you need to question, is it really a problem? And if it's not a problem, don't try solving it. Is it just a solution? Is it a tack on? And that might be a good business too. But if it doesn't grab you, it's going to be hard for you to enthuse people. And in those early stages, the reason why that's important is because you don't have any money. But you need people to help you. Don't ever be ashamed as well to ask for help. Ask for help. If you don't know where to go, come to the DiversityX community. We'll try and help you. We can't solve every problem with it, but what we do know is that we will try and find the right people that can to help you. So yeah, that's probably a quick bit of advice.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, being part of the community, and definitely also love what you said about the vision. Is your vision strong enough that it will keep you going, that it will bother you every time you're thinking, oh, it's too hard and I want to walk away, and when it's still there, and that's what is going to keep you going forward. So one last angle I wanted to explore today, because I think that's also really important, especially because I believe in work. In diversity helps in a way of creating this environment at work where people are passionate, when people can be free. And that's when we start talking about human-centered leadership. And it's something that I've seen a lot from you, and especially you do have a varied background from living in many countries like the UK, China, Russia, US, and more. So how do you see this, what you do, the work you're doing with DiversityX will also help people change their mindset when it comes to human-centered leadership?
Yeah, before I started really exploring this as I was finding my own purpose. And I read books on conscious capitalism, and there's this great book I read, which I've literally just forgotten, but it's about a company called Barry Waymiller, a manufacturing company, similar, about 3 billion US. They didn't make people redundant during a global financial crisis. How? Because the guy was like, I treat everybody like they're a member of my family. So every decision I have to make, sometimes, like, even with members of your family, you have to make hard calls and decisions. But with that in mind, like, I treated everybody as, if they were my family, what would I do? If they were my family, what would I say to them? If that was my child, what advice would I give? And so that stuck with me, and I tried to look at the world like that, and I tried to understand why. So I started exploring. So I actually did my own podcast series called Cocktail Leadership, and I just started speaking to people. One, it was a great way just to chat to people, amazing people, really who wrote books and stuff on it. Like Francis Fay was one of my favorites. Paul Zak, who wrote a book about trust. Oh my gosh. We had some great guests. But it was really to explore that side of human leadership. And the reality is, it's just the way you have to be now. Some call it servant leadership. I call it human leadership. So, or you said human-centered leadership, but it's really about focusing on people to drive. But there has to be a link with purpose. It's people, purpose together to drive. And if you focus on that, the other stuff will come. I genuinely believe that. And there's data around that actually shows that leadership that way actually gets better results. Now, that's not to say, like, in a crisis where your plane's going down, you're in the middle of heart surgery, you don't need a little bit of command and control. But it's not the way to run a business today. Command and control. Human-centered leadership is. And for me, I love people. Like, I love people.
Yeah.
I love exploring why people do what they do. Why do we make the choices we make? Like, even with all the data around, why do we do really stupid stuff like smoking? There's so much information about smoking now, but yet people still will choose to light a cigarette. Why? You know, all of this other, like, why do we code of conduct and every business has a code of conduct for how we behave? Why do we choose to break it? We've all done our driving license, pass the test, get in a car, we see the lights, red, amber, green. It's been on green, you're approaching, it switches to amber. You know what to do now. You know which way that light's going to go. What do you do? What do you do? They always tell you what to do. They're always saying, hit the brake, slow down. What do we do as humans? We hit the accelerator.
Oh, that little chance. I could just about go in.
I could do it. And I'm halfway across and it's changed red, but I was already across the line.
Yeah.
Right. But why? Like, the rules tell us that's not the right way not to do it. Like, the highway code tells us, the driving test, but we as humans. So I love like humans and trying to understand why we do what we do.
Yes.
And I think that plays into, like, leaders should also try and understand their people a bit better and recognize, and this is where the diversity and inclusion is so powerful. It's a tool for greatness. Is that if you are inclusive, you could have an all-white team. You still need to be inclusive. You can still exclude people within that. That inclusion and understanding the equity side of it is deeply, it's not equality, equity, understanding where people's position is, where their starting line is, and make the accommodations to, it's not even accommodations, give them the same opportunities, knowing that in mind. I use the analogies of women at home. I'm going to do a generalization, but they tend to do more of the childcare. So they're up early, getting the 2 kids to school. Husband or the guy showers, reads the paper, comes downstairs. They both get to work for 9 o'clock, but she's done 3 hours work already. Who's in the game? Who's in game mode for that first meeting at 9 o'clock? Because he's relaxed.
Just waking up.
You know, yeah, you get the pain of being on the commute. So did she. But she's done 3 hours work already. God damn it, it's lunchtime for her. You know, we have to, with that in mind, now we've got that knowledge, what are we going to do with it? Like, well, maybe let's start the meeting at 9:30 so everybody can be on point, and firing and productivity and trying to get the most out of people. That's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah, and also create this great environment as you're talking about the people. One thing I love about startups, of course, is I see that as a land or a place where you can create, you can innovate. There's also the other aspect of startups that we all know is challenging, it's fast-paced, there's a lot of uncertainties. Yet whenever I check my feed online or read the news, I'm always more motivated and inspired when I see that the discussion is starting to change in terms of how do we make sure that we also look after our people. Yes, we know we can't change. It's a startup. It's going to be tough. We're going to have to work long hours sometimes. But what do you do as a leader to create what I call the workplace playground, where you can actually get your people, where you empathize with their challenges, when you try to give them the right processes, the tools, the environment, the best you can. You can't control everything, but there is a part that you can control, which I believe that people don't spend a lot of time on that because, well, it's not straightforward and it's not written where, everything he needs to do. And I think when we start looking at this human leadership, the reason why I was really passionate about that and really connected with me was this could be another element in terms of creating startup of the future that really connect with the planet, the profit, and especially the people.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. The startups that get backed certainly from a VC, but even angel investors, what's the opportunity? Okay, you can tick the box. The problem is the problem is the problem. The solution is, we're going to back this. We think, yes, there's so many zeros at the end of that market, like the TAM and the SOM and that. Yeah, okay, there is an opportunity. I have a good feeling about the opportunity and the solution that's being presented to me. The other question, I think, from from the DiversityX point of view, this is a critical element, is do we believe in you, and do we believe in that team? And, you know, given where DiversityX is, we're keen on getting in the early stages, pre-seed and seed, when we eventually have capital to deploy. That's a long journey to an exit potentially. And you're going to be building a team and a business. Like, you have to have people to help you grow and scale. You know, you go from 3 to 10 to 25 to 50 to 100 to 500, and it can be like that. It can be fast, because that's the way, and that's what this game is. Well, how are you going to manage that? Because being 3 people stuck in a bedroom knocking out some code is one thing. Being 500 people occupying an entire building where you have had to let go to get
it's just
stuff
really
done.
hard. Yeah.
And to also people who know more than you.
Yeah.
Because you have this knowledge and expertise in this one bit of space, but you need all of these things to come together. And I sometimes, I'm not saying you should be the dumbest person in the room, but fill yourself with the people who are smarter than you, who know more than you, who can advise you and counsel you, and be willing to take that on board. You might still have to make some of the crunch decisions, but bow into their expertise. That's what you're hiring them for. Let them do their jobs. You hire them for a reason. Let them live out that reason. You know, I talk about one company. They hire super smart people, put a straight jacket on them, spoon feed them exactly what to do.
Yes.
Spit them out as really stupid people, because they don't know what to do. And that's a problem.
Well, the other one is actually not listening, because this is something I see a lot. I was called to work with a team. They were meant to launch 5 products in 2 or 3 months, which I already thought, 5 products launch is crazy for a big company, let alone a small company. Then I sat down with the team, because I was the interim head of product. I sat with my team and I said, okay, so have we told the clients that we are launching? No. Sales know we're launching? No. Okay, so how do you think that we're launching? We're not launching. Like, wait. I just spoke to the CEO. He's completely sure that we're launching. They're like, we just gave up telling them that it's not going to happen. So now we say yes. And I thought, hold on a minute. This is not. I mean, when I heard that, of course, you could point fingers here and there, but to me, it does show that, you need to go down into the leadership and the underlying culture. What are the events that led the team believing that there is no point arguing or putting our thought across as the expert, because we are not being listened to? And usually that will go down to maybe their current manager or the previous manager probably wasn't empowering them or listening to them or making decisions on their behalf, even if they were the one driving their own products.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think a huge part of it, and I come back to this word quite often, is intentionality. Like, that leadership is an intentional skill, and it is a skill set, and it's made up of lots of different elements. But it's a skill set, and you'll be stronger at certain parts than other parts. Listening being a key element of, in fact, it's a must-have. It's like one of those. It's a non-negotiable, right? You've got to have that. But you do have to be inclusive. Like, you have it drive. It's so simple if you're intentional. It's not hard. It doesn't cost money. Everybody's like, we have to go. It's getting the power of diversity, and it is a power, isn't getting people from different backgrounds to get into an organizer. It's actually finding that cognitive diversity, those different lived experiences, which comes from people having different backgrounds, different viewpoints, all of those different things. But then when you have them, unleashing them. like in a way that everybody feels safe to share their experiences, their lived experience, to build a better product or service, but also that they are included in that conversation in the first place. Like that's what it comes down to. And did any of that cost money? No, it just takes intentionality.
Yeah, I agree. And that's got nothing to do with providing more perks or free food or all of this kind of stuff that I see a lot, especially in tech startups. That those are great, but I see that as the icing on the cake. If you don't have the right foundation, if the cake doesn't taste nice, there's nothing you can. All of that, people will appreciate that, but they won't stay. Whereas when you really have the intentionality and the way you lead your people, that's how you grow and flourish as a company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, going. You see so many. It's like, oh, what perks? Firstly, have the purpose down. Like, that's what people are going to be tethered to. That needs to be like, think of it as your anchor. Your ship's moving like that, but you're anchored. That purpose of your company, your startup, that's got to be something that resonates with everybody you bring in. If it doesn't, then they're probably not going to last. So you might need that ping pong table or the free whatever you give to them. But if they're tethered to that purpose, that other stuff is a nice to have, but it isn't what keeps them there.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kevin. It was a great discussion today. And thank you all for your amazing questions and the comments. We had quite a lot of comments today. And I'm really, really excited about that. And again, for anyone watching, whether it was live or not, there is no time limit to join DiversityX. And the only problem you might have if you don't join is that you might be stuck or lonely or overthinking things in your head without being able to talk to people. There's a community out there that is waiting for you. We're going to put the link to the DiversityX community in our show notes. And again, it's a great place to be. There's a lot more things happening, and I will also suggest that you sign up with, or you connect with Kevin on LinkedIn, and you keep an eye out for the newsletter that comes out monthly. I absolutely love reading them, as you find out a lot in terms of what's happening in DiversityX, in just the startup world in general, and there's also a promotion of other amazing founders and inspirations out there. So, Kevin, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we go?
No, thank you so much for this opportunity. I've really loved being on here. I was wrong to be nervous and scared, but this has been brilliant. I've loved it. Thank you for the opportunity. If you're an underestimated founder, come on home. It's at DiversityX, by the way. If you're looking as an investor to support underestimated founders, and it's the right thing to do, and it's not just because it's the right thing to do, but because these are hugely backable people, come and talk to me.
Well, and I will be seeing you as well on the DiversityX platform, and I'm always available online. You can find me on LinkedIn and on our podcast as well. In the meantime, remember, let's design a happy and productive workplace playground together.